All right. Welcome to today's Social News Desk Civil webinar, Turning Critics into Conversations, Handling Negative Social Comments for Government. Today, we're going to be talking about something that every single person on this call has dealt with, which is negative comments on social media. If you haven't dealt with it yet, you will. It comes with the territory of being a government communicator. And what we want to do today is give you a practical framework for handling these situations, not just survive them, but navigate them with confidence. And we've got three great guests with us today who have some real stories and real experiences to share. So this is going to be a good one. And before we get started, just a little bit about us. Social News Desk empowers critical communicators with powerful, secure social media management and archiving software trusted by more than 10,000 professionals. We were founded in 2010, and since then, we've proudly supported America's largest news companies, cities, government agencies, school districts, universities, and businesses who require powerful, always on social media tools. And Civil is a civic engagement platform for local government. We give cities, counties, and special districts one place to manage their website, social media, and public records with built in archiving for compliance. And we're backed by more than 15 years of experience serving more than 2,000 organizations through Social News Desk, and we're now purpose built for government. Just a little bit about me. I'm Sarah Loyd, your host today. I'm the head of product success and evangelism here at Social News Desk, and I'm based in San Antonio, Texas. I've been with the team for almost 12 years now, and prior to joining SND, I managed social media and worked in several newsrooms, so had that perspective on handling negative comments. I was also a Social News Desk customer before I joined the team, and you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. The address is right there on the screen. And so now let's meet our panelists. Stephen, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning. If you're on the West Coast like I am, it's still 11 o'clock, but good afternoon to the rest of the country. My name is Stephen Baird. I am a public affairs associate with the Virgenes Municipal Water District. We serve the farthest most northwest corner of Los Angeles County, and we serve the communities of Malibu, Calabasas, Agora Hills, Westlake Village, and some parts of unincorporated Los Angeles County to the north. And it's a great place to work. We cover about 160 or 122 square miles. That also includes a lot of protected state park areas. So it's incredibly beautiful. And just really excited to be here and kind of share my experience and my story.
Yeah, how could anybody have any negative comments for you in such a beautiful part of the country, Stephen? I don't know.
They have high expectations on the level of service they receive, and we strive every day to meet those.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. All right. Taylor, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everybody. I am Taylor Lavelle. I am the digital communications manager for the city of Melissa. We are a small town of 32,000 residents located in North Texas.
All right. And finally, Bridget.
Hey, y'all. Yes, from Texas. That's what we'd say here. I'm the communication director and PIO for the city of Melissa. I've been here since 2023, and we were just listed as the fourth fastest growing city in the United States.
Wow. So you guys have a really unique perspective on probably, new residents, old residents. I know Bridget and I talked about that on an upcoming podcast. So spoiler alert on Modern Gov Matters, that'll be coming out in a few weeks.
Yay.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is what we're going to cover today. We're going to start by introducing a framework for thinking about negative comments, how to identify what you're dealing with, how to decide what to do about it. And then from there, we're going to move into our panel discussion where I'll be asking our guests today about their real world experiences, the good, the hard, and the I do that differently moments. And then after that, we'll close out with some best practices and a look at some tools that can make all of this more manageable for your team. And of course, we'll save some time for questions. So start thinking about what you want to ask, and please drop those in the chat anytime throughout the webinar, and we'll get to as many as we can. All right, so before you can decide how to respond to a negative comment, you need to figure out first what you're actually dealing with, because not all negative comments are created equal. There are really 4 types that you'll run into as a government communicator. The first is a genuine complaint. So a constituent who had a bad experience or has a real concern and they're frustrated, but they're engaging in good faith and they usually just want to be heard. The second is misinformation. So false information that's spreading in your comments, sometimes faster than you can keep up with. And this one's tricky because ignoring it can look like confirmation. Third is frustrated venting. So this is just emotion driven and often not really about you specifically. Someone had a bad day and your post was there and they may not even be looking for a response. They're just kind of looking for a fight. And fourth is bad faith or coordinated negativity. So this is trolls, bots, in some cases, organized pylons. And these are people who are just not engaging in good faith and likely never will, no matter what you say. Now, why does this matter? It matters because the right move is completely different depending on which one you're dealing with. And responding to a troll like it's a genuine complaint wastes your time and usually makes things worse. And of course, ignoring a genuine complaint like it's a troll erodes public trust. So, Dino, let's take a quick poll here if we can launch that. Our poll is, what kind of negative comment is hardest for your team to handle? Is it the genuine complaint, misinformation, frustrated venting, bad faith, or coordinated attacks? So we'll wait a second for those to come in. All right. Got some votes for misinformation here. Coordinated attacks. Yes, those are very tricky. All right, we'll give you guys just a few more seconds. All right, we can go ahead and end the poll there. It looks like most people have the most trouble with bad faith and coordinated attacks. So yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that today. So now that you've identified what kind of comment you're looking at, before you type a single word in response, you can run it through 3 questions. So number 1, is it factual? Is there something factually incorrect here that needs to be addressed? Maybe misinformation that could spread if you leave it alone, or is this an opinion or a complaint or just an emotional reaction? Factual errors usually need a response, but opinions don't always need you to reply. Number 2, is it in good faith? Is this person genuinely looking for information or acknowledgement, or are they just looking for a fight or trying to bait you into saying something you'll regret? Good faith deserves a response, and bad faith usually doesn't, and engaging often just pours fuel on the fire. And then number 3, does it need a public response? Will other people who are watching this thread benefit from seeing your reply? Sometimes the answer is yes. And your response isn't just for that one commenter, it's for everyone who reads it. But sometimes a public response just amplifies something that would have faded on its own. So these 3 questions won't give you a perfect answer every time, but they'll slow you down just enough to make a deliberate decision instead of a reactive one. And that makes a really huge difference. So once you've run the 3-question test, here's where you land. If the comment is factual, in good faith, and would benefit from a public response, respond publicly. Acknowledge the concern, provide accurate information, and keep it brief and human. If it's a genuine situation, but it's getting personal or involves account details or really just needs more back and forth than a comment thread allows, move it to a DM. A simple, we'd love to help, can you send us a message, kind of goes a long way. And if the comment is in bad faith or self-resolving or engaging with it would just make things worse, just don't respond. This is a harder call than it sounds because the instinct is always to say something, especially as communicators. But silence can be a legitimate strategy when used intentionally. And of course, if the comment crosses into spam, threats, profanity, or a clear violation of your published comment policy, you might consider hiding or removing it. And this is where having a comment policy really matters. It's generally not considered censorship if it's against the rules that you've already publicly posted, and it protects your staff from having to make that judgment call on their own every time. And one more thing on this, whatever you decide to do, document it. And we'll talk more about why in a few minutes, but especially for removals, you want a record of what you did and why. And with that, those are the principles. So now let's hear from our guests about how this actually plays out in the real world. All right, friends. So let's set the stage. What do negative comments actually look like for your accounts? Stephen, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So as a purveyor of drinking water, most of what I would consider are negative comments are somebody who is concerned and voicing their concern about the quality of the water, right? Because if they're saying, hey, why is, for instance, we may get a comment, why is the water coming out of my shower brown, right? And when people see that, there's a lot of reasons why, and a lot of reasonable explanations be not being that the water is unsafe. And so for those type of what I would say like reputational, not crises or anything, but basically when they say that they're calling into question our core mission of delivering safe water. And so I consider those like the majority of our negative comments. As any public agency, we just get the trolls, you guys are thieves stealing our water, you're getting rich off of us, which is obviously the truth because we're all just super wealthy. And those, I think we go back and that's people frustrated for whatever reason. And then sometimes we will get somebody who has a real axe to grind, and then that sometimes will cross into the personal, like, I hate this person I dealt with on the phone, they called them by name. And so that's kind of like the three levels that we deal with on a regular basis, not outside of crisis communications or something of that nature.
All right. And Bridget, Taylor, how about you guys and Melissa?
I'll let Taylor start.
Yeah, so because we're one of the fastest growing cities, some of those comments that we see often is about the growth. It's about the construction, it's about the change. Um and, no matter what, you're always going to get negative comments. It's just part of being on social media in general. Um, but, how we really combat it is, celebrating all of the fun things that are coming. Um, while still trying to grasp that small town feel. One of the things that Melissa does have is that small town, um, you know, kind of vibe. So we really try to hold on to that as much as possible and really try to celebrate the community, because at the end of the day, that's what it's always about, especially here in Melissa. Everybody here is a very close knit community. So being able to really just harp on on that and answer the two questions that I always answer is like, what is Melissa becoming, and how does this affect, me as a resident if I were to live here? So, it's really just being frustrated about the construction, stuff like that. But, with all of those growing pains, like there's really going to be a lot of great things that are coming.
Yeah, for sure. Bridget, anything you want to add?
I think for me, because I'm not in the thick of it like Taylor is every single day. When a negative comment makes it to my desk is when the conversation has grown, and it's at an escalation point, and that's when I'll talk later about what we do when it reaches a certain point and why we do what we do. So yeah, I think as far as Taylor said, our negatives are growth, and they all think that they know about infrastructure, and you're like, okay, well, come tell me all about infrastructure. We haven't been planning for this for years. So but yeah, I think for the most part it's we're right in the midst of the growing pains.
Yeah. All right. So, our next question, can you share a specific moment where a negative comment situation really tested you, and walk us through how you handled it? And I'm going to leave this up to whoever wants to grab this one first.
We can take that question first. Um I would say when I first joined the city of Melissa, I went from private corporation to, public government. So it was totally different when it comes to negative comments. So it took me a little bit to get used to these negative comments, or kind of the negative feedback. Um, However, you grow to just be like, all right, it's freedom of speech. People can say whatever they want. Um, but I would say recently, a time that just really got under my skin was, it was a recent water break, and we were getting information off the fly. It was something that happened so quickly, and our team had to be on site immediately. Not me, but Bridget went out there, as she's the PIO. Our public works department was out there because a contractor hit a major water line, and all of the city was out of water.
Oh, gosh.
And I think a lot of people were very quick to point fingers, and they were very quick to come up with the best solution possible, rather than being able to kind of step back and understand, well, that wasn't us, but this is how we're addressing it. So where I work is like, the best place in the world. And so those are my people. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Like, we're doing the best we can. This just happened. So I would say that was the time that got under my skin. But again, it's just people just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't know what they don't know.
I'm
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
su-
exactly.
Stephen, how
I'm
about
really
you?
surprised you said that one,
yeah.
Kate, and not the days off one.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that one got under my skin too.
Taylor has gotten really good at, okay, where's the popcorn? Because we all
Yes.
do that, right? But she did go from what is happening, like even where she was nervous to post, and
Yeah.
now she's like, whatever, it's another day in the neighborhood. So
Yes.
Yeah, I think one that tested me the most, one of the things that I take most personally is when people are mean to the staff, because I work with them and I know what they do every day. So, you come with my coworkers and that instantly gets me in kind of the fight mode versus the mediate mode. But we had for Women's History Month, we were spotlighting staff, and we spotlighted a staff, and one of her estranged family members actually got in the comments
Oh gosh.
and was very negative and just really, and it created this weird dynamic where it is as much an internal issue, right? Protecting my staff member, but it's also what she was saying was it really, against our published policies. And so basically what I did is I reported it it was on Facebook. So I used the Facebook mechanism, and because she had called out and was saying inflammatory things about the staff, Facebook took it down. And so in that time frame, I was triaging, what do we do? How do we respond to it? And luckily, again, what I would say is, and we'll probably talk about it later, is things you can lean on where you don't have to make the decision is reporting it. Because if the platform takes it down, it does protect you and your agency. So, but that was really tough because, she's calling me, it's 9:00 at night, there's this thing up. And so, I never really thought of that. Like, that was something I'm going to have to deal with, right? A family issue spilling over onto our agencies sees social media. But the reality is that's what we're doing, right? I think a lot of us are probably out there trying to showcase what our employees are doing, trying to make our social media feeds more human. And these are, when you do that, you're opening up to these weird things that, I'm used to people saying the water rates are too high. That's easy, like, right? Off the shoulder, I get it, but like that was such a unique and different one. It really made me stop and think, and really had to be thoughtful about what the response was going to be.
Yeah. So that kind of takes us to our next question. So how do you decide in the moment whether to respond publicly or move to DMs or not to engage at all, or maybe to use the platform mechanism for reporting? Stephen, you want to go ahead and take this one first?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think I run it through a kind of decision matrix, which is, can I respond with an answer to a question that this is something we see a lot of, and I've talked to customer service about it, because in a lot of ways, the comments are where customer service and public outreach meet. And so a lot of what we're doing in comments is actually a customer service function in a way. So if there's something where I can refer them to the right person, if they're like, hey, I don't understand how this or certain thing works, or how do I get this rebate program, I'll try to point them in the right direction, quick, easy. So let's respond publicly. If it is just a troll who says you guys suck, I don't give it the time of day. I'm not going to tell them why we don't suck and open that up. And, I call, we talk about that internally, kind of like you can't swing at every pitch, right? Because you swing at every pitch, you're always going to strike out.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking, that one's in the dirt. It's not worth it. Lots of people are unhappy with whatever it may be, right? And that's like kind of what you said, like frustration, just we're the person they want to be, the punching bag, and that's fine. I will go to the DM if it is a specific account question that they need to contact customer service, because it's also, we have some unique billing and different customer classes and these different things. It's hard to put that all in a social media comment response. They're already confused about what they're confused about. Me necessarily typing out an answer isn't really the solution, right? It's trying to put them in contact with the staff that can help them. And then, that's kind of how I do it. It's if it's personal DMs, if it's an easy answer, respond publicly. If it's a troll, we don't engage at all. typically if it's a nice thing, I'm going to like it, just to acknowledge that, yes, we appreciate it. We see you giving us love. So we try to do that, things like that. Because that's also part of it too, is acknowledge, like, you don't necessarily need to engage at a high level, but acknowledgement goes a long way for this.
Yeah, and I think amplifying those positive comments sometimes can help kind of tamp down the negativity a little bit. So, Taylor, how about you? How do you make those decisions on the fly?
Yeah, I would say probably 99% of the time I'm responding publicly. I never move anything to the DMs, just because, it's different than someone asking about account information. Now, if they do have a question about like something specific like that, then I'll provide them with, the contact information to that department. Um, Again, if it's like a question that I can answer, and I've gotten, feedback from that department on the best way to answer it, then I will tend to do that. However, if it's like, well, it depends kind of answer and it's a long-winded answer, then I'll just say, hey, reach out to the Parks and Rec department if you have any questions. Because, at the end of the day, it is like a public forum, but sometimes you can't explain all of those nitty-gritty details that they might not understand just over, the comments section. That's typically how I do it. Like Steven said, I stay away from the trolls, the rage baiters, that kind of thing. Now, if it's where you respond to the question and they have a response back and it's like, okay, well, you didn't read my response, then I just drop it. I'm like, okay, you know what? They were looking for a fight. So I got what I needed to get out there with their question. And now they just want to fight. So that's typically how I do it. A really good resource that we used, or that I used at the beginning, was the Air Force web posting response assessment. You could just Google it and it shows like little boxes, if this then this. That was a really good helpful tool when I first started, on whether or not to respond to comments. So
Yeah, that's great that you have kind of a rubric that you can refer
mhm.
to, especially if you're new to it.
Yes.
It's nice to have some guidance there. But yeah, hopefully that's what we're doing here today, right? All right. So our next question is: has your agency ever had to hide or remove comments? And then how do you navigate that, especially given the public accountability piece that's unique to government? Bridget, I'm going to pitch this to you since you're the PIO. Kind
Yeah.
of what's your policy on hiding and removing, and have you guys ever had to implement that?
Yeah, stop. No. No, yes and no. Facebook is really, really crazy about hiding comments. Like, we don't have the filters set up and things like that. We've removed all of those things, and Facebook said, "Yeah, we don't like that one." So, whatever their algorithm is on the back end, but they've hidden comments, and I thought, okay, well, something about that one they didn't like. Now I do make sure that I go into my archiving to mark that, and show that it was hidden by Facebook. But as far as like, we have an escalation protocol. So if Taylor said, "Hey, this has gotten out of hand," um, not necessarily slander, but we get a lot of we have a lot of events, and we have a lot of the bots that are saying, "Oh yeah, we still have vendor spots available. Please contact us at blah 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 blah." And we don't want our community or anybody being taken advantage of. Those are the ones that really get us. Or when the police department is doing something and somebody says, "Oh yeah, grab your T-shirt here," and we're not even selling T-shirts. Those are the ones that we say, "Oh, we're not going to commit fraud on our page." So we'll send it through an escalation process, and that actually goes to our attorney. So we have some backing and some footing, and we're going to mark that in our archiving and make sure that we're just covered.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like I see a lot of especially smaller cities have issues with spam like that when you have like a craft fair or farmers market or something and everyone's like, "Oh, go to this fake site and sign up for your vendor spot and give me your money." And so I feel like you guys have to be kind of on the lookout for that a little bit more frequently. Stephen,
A
how about
lot.
you guys?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the issue with our staff member, but we have even not even in the context of just like interacting and having to remove it, but even just like cleaning up our social media, cleaning up our YouTube. Before I delete anything that will remove a comment, I make sure it's archived first off, and then I get a written, I call it my permission slip from legal. I explain to them, hey, we're doing this. There are comments on here, but they are archived, and then they basically give me the go ahead. And that kind of, to me, it just creates this package for that particular post or those comments. I have, it's archived, so I can bring it up if I need to, and I have basically a legal permission that it fits into our policy. And so, like I said, we've been fortunate. We haven't really had to use our escalation for anything really bad. But it is just, that is my process. I will do that for anything I remove. I want to have that package of an archive and written permission from legal. So that way, even just internally, if it comes to like, why did you do that? I have that written. And I can also say, hey, go look for yourself. This is the archive. This is where it was going. This was what was happening in real time.
Yeah. So it sounds like kind of the key here is if you have to hide or delete comments for any reason, just have that paper trail, have the archive, have your permission slip from legal, but just document, document, document. Yeah. All right. So have you guys ever gotten a response wrong, and what did you learn from it? Taylor, I'm gonna pick on you first.
Sure. Have I gotten a response wrong? Um,
It's okay if the answer is never. Like I am
yeah,
betting
I'm gonna
100 here.
yeah, I'm gonna say never, or I've never had that happen, because I really work diligently with our department heads to make sure that I have all of the information necessary to make the best response possible before I even hit like submit on, on Facebook. Never do I ever just post something without full knowledge and full confidence that this is correct and this is like what my director Bridget would want me to say, because at the end of the day we are representing our residents and our in our city council, and if it's not something that I would be comfortable telling them face to face to their to them, then I wouldn't be comfortable just saying that to some random person online. So a really good tool that I use is ChatGPT. So if I'm feeling heated or something like that, then I'll put in my response and I'll say, just make this a little bit more friendlier and whatnot, and it'll clean it up. And nothing's wrong with being heated about a comment and taking a step back and saying, you know what, that comment will be there tomorrow for you to respond. Just calm down. You don't ever want to just respond emotionally. That's never a great, tactic. So there's tools out there to make sure that you're responding correctly, um, before you ever hit submit.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Stephen, how about you guys? I know you guys have some tricky situations over there.
Yeah, I would say, I think probably the things that I've regretted the most is maybe, and this comes from experience or having the conversations with management and leadership about what expectations are. Well, maybe I lacked the discernment earlier on where I took things too seriously that I shouldn't have. And then now I'm investing my time. I'm escalating something that in the end I shouldn't have. And that's not getting it wrong. That's just learning how to, optimize your time and how these platforms work. Um, I think probably the the thing I rely on most is kind of like Taylor said. It's what I am confident. I'm 100% confident when I'm typing that what I'm typing is to the right person or is the correct answer. If I'm not 100% confident, I don't respond until I am. And sometimes if I don't like, we can be a directory sometimes. Sometimes that's all we really takes is for us to link our expert staff member with this constituent to help them solve their problem. But like I said, we're a small enough team, and if I am typing something, it's all either already been vetted, I've done it before, I know the answer, or it's going to be approved before I respond.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of approvals, for agencies that don't yet have a formal comment policy, what's your advice for getting one in place, and what should it actually say? Bridget, do you mind fielding this one first?
Um, we spent a really long time on our social media policy. It took us, what, Tay, about 7 months
Yeah,
to
it took us
complete.
months to write it.
Yeah. I think that it needs to be tailored to your agency. You have to have all the right people in the room when you're starting to build that. You need legal. We have a really good legal team. It's not just one attorney, there's two, and one of them is she'll dig into the like Facebook social media stuff. I think just because she's not as it's not our normal wheelhouse, so she really likes to dig in and find the answers. And of course, then she gets very vague as well. So anyway, I think it's have an official comment policy in place, number one. But number two, um, document, like Steven said, once you do have that in place and you've followed all the correct protocols with having the right people in one place and talking to legal. And then obviously, if it's external, I like ours as external and internal, but if it's oh, my brain just went blank. You're going to have to probably adopt it into your personnel policy. So that's going to take even longer, but definitely have a comment policy in place.
Yeah. Yeah. Stephen, how about you guys?
Yeah. So I think if you don't have one or you're just trying to wrap your head about it, there's a lot of great resources. Shameless plug. I'm the vice president of awards for CAPIO, the California Association of Public Information Officials. I know I've got a great relationship with many of you who probably Texas Association of Municipal Information Officials. Reach out to people who have done it. Like Bridget and Taylor could give you a lot of help in doing yours. Maybe your community is very similar to Melissa, or you're dealing with similar issues, right? So I'd suggest that. I think Bridget is absolutely correct. It has to be. It has to fit your corporate culture of your agency and your community. And I think really it needs to be looked at as an extension of your overall social media strategy, right? Comments. The comment section is a tactical opportunity for a lot of us. And so as you're building out that policy, understand that that policy is going to guide your response to comments, and it should do so in a way that's going to strengthen your other strategic communication goals. Also, I like that because it helps narrow the conversations you're having maybe with people. We need the buy-in of management and legal. I think it's great that they have a legal team that's willing to kind of look at stuff that isn't right in their wheelhouse. But people still think social media exists in their mind like it did in 2017, especially in
Yeah.
management. They don't necessarily understand the battlefield we're operating on every day in the trenches of the comments section. So I think tying it to strategy is a very good way to help them focus in on really what we need their buy-in for. And I think lastly, you know, there is a difference between how you manage your comments section during crisis and how you do it in under normal operating, business operating environment. So just keep that in mind. Whether you have, we kind of have it built into our crisis communications plan as how social media fits into that broader crisis communications, but it is very different. And a lot of things, I was, during the Palisades fire in LA, it impacted some of our district, and so your constituents, it's just such a different environment, and having that guidance, like having a policy, really helps in those situations, right? So I would recommend having that in mind as you build out your policy.
Yeah. Yeah. And your advice on, tapping into your networks of colleagues is really great advice. I know there's, Capio and Tamio for the folks represented here today, but at the national level, there's 3CMA, there's the GSM network, government social media network. So there are a ton of resources out there that people can, go and ask questions and say, hey, can someone share their social media policy with us or their comment policy? And there are always people willing to help out with that. All right. So our last question, what's your one final piece of advice for a government social media manager who dreads dealing with negative comments and doesn't want to open their notifications tomorrow? Stephen, how about you take this one first?
Um, hire a specialist to work under you and to answer your question. I mean, no.
Get yourself a tailor.
Yeah.
Hire a
All
tailor.
joke, all joking aside, I I dreaded it, and like I said, what was successful for me is taking the emotion out of it by really having that set procedure that I just go through. I don't, it just helps. It helps, and then I don't get so I don't feel so bad about the little things. So my mind is fresher, and I'm better able to deal with the real comments that need thoughtfulness and intention, and maybe we are escalating it. So really lean on that policy. Take those decisions out. Take the emotion out of it. Make it just as simple as like a press release, And I think that goes a long way in taking that dread out of the
Yeah.
equation.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor, how about you? What's your advice?
My piece of advice is you're never going to win every argument, and our job is not to make everybody happy. So just knowing that right off the bat, that people might be mad, people might be pissed about it. And guess what? That's their freedom. That's the freedom of being in the United States. But at the end of the day, as long as we're communicating clearly and effectively and consistently, then we're doing our job. And I think, being able to just step back and say, I'm doing my job regardless of making everybody happy, I think that's a pretty good piece of advice right there.
Yeah. Bridget, anything you would add?
Um, yeah, I mean, for the most part, you nailed it when you said get you a tailor, just not mine.
Yeah.
Find a different tailor. They have last names that change. So just a bit of advice. But anyways, tailor's in there most of the time. Lean into your director or your leadership if your negative comments get out of control and it's covering a certain topic and you go, oof, this is bigger than me now. This is becoming, like I don't know why I use this analogy, so I'm so sorry everybody because it's going to give you a visual. But like if you chew on a piece of steak and it just kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that's that comment section that it's beyond you can't control that section anymore. And you're like, this isn't just a negative comment section at this point. This is more. It's creating a voice beyond social media. If that's the case, lean into your director and say, hey, we need to probably look at a statement. We need to, attack this from a different angle. Let's go above the comment section. We've had to do it. And it's probably the times when I've dug in as a director and said, this is something we need to do. This is my suggestion. And when I'm asked with why are you thinking that? I just lay out my reasons. We're really truly changing the public's perception of government. And that's important. Your job is important. You're not just dealing with negative people. You're combating a perception that's automatic. I mean, I live in citizen mind all the time. And I think even at home, because I don't live in Melissa, I think, where are the police when something like this is happening? And I've worked in 911 dispatch. I know where the police are, but I needed somebody to blame it on. So just remember that when you're dealing with negative comments. Not everything is a personal attack. It's just one, they want to vent and they want somebody to listen to them. And a lot of times just letting them vent, if it's a bigger thing, then make it, escalate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one piece of advice I would add from my time back in the newsroom, I haven't worked in the newsroom in a while, but one thing I always used to tell myself as a social media manager was don't take it personally, because usually it's not about you. It's about whatever they're dealing with. It may be a legitimate issue. It may be that they're just having a really crappy day. But don't carry that home with you at the end of the day, because it's typically not about you. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for this great conversation. So, just a couple of things to wrap up. We've heard some really great real world examples, and I want to take a few minutes to pull out some of the principles that I think apply across the board. So, when you do decide to respond publicly, how you say it matters just as much as what you say. But the number one rule is really to lead with acknowledgement and not defense. The instinct when someone criticizes your agency is to explain yourself immediately, but if you skip past that acknowledgement, people sometimes feel like you're not listening. And even a simple, hey, we hear you before we get into the facts can make a significant difference in how that response lands. And next up, be human. Government communicators sometimes can be tempted to default to formal institutional language. And, there can be real reasons for that. And sometimes that is appropriate. But oftentimes in a comment thread, bureaucratic language can read really cold and dismissive, and you can really still be professional and still sound like a person. Of course, we talked about, don't argue facts in a comment thread. If someone has wrong information, correct it once clearly and then move on. Sometimes going back and forth trying to win an argument in public comments, it just never ends well. So it just kind of keeps the negativity visible and active longer than it needs to be. And then, of course, offer a path forward when you can. It might be a phone number to that expert in another department, or a link to somewhere on your website, or even just, hey, please DM us and we can help get this sorted out. But giving someone that next step signals that you want to actually help and not just respond and check that box. So, here are a couple of response starters that tend to work well in common situations. For a service complaint or disruption, you can start with, hey, we hear you. Here's what's happening and what we're doing about it. If you need more information or need to take it out of the public thread, you can start with, we want to make sure you get the right help. Can you send us a DM? And if you're correcting misinformation, thanks for flagging this. We want to make sure everyone has accurate information. Here's what's actually going on. And of course, just as important, here's what not to do. Don't delete a comment and pretend that it didn't happen, because people will notice and it almost always makes things worse. And as we mentioned, don't respond when you're frustrated or angry. If a comment gets under your skin, that's a signal to step away and come back to it. As Taylor said, it'll always be there tomorrow. And of course, don't ignore a genuine public concern, especially one that others can see, because silence on something visible might read as indifference. So, this might be the most important piece from a risk management standpoint. Everything we've talked about today, identifying comment types, deciding how to respond, writing a good response, that's just the day to day work. But of course, there's a layer underneath that protects you when things get serious. So, first of all, as our guest mentioned, archive everything. This is especially critical for government accounts. When a comment is edited or deleted by the commenter, by Facebook, by you, that content can disappear. And if you ever need it for a public records request, it's just gone. SND archive automatically captures comments before they're edited or deleted. So you have a complete record without having to think about it. It just runs in the background. Second, as we mentioned, document your moderation decisions, especially removals. Anytime you hide or remove a comment, you should have a record of what it said, when it was posted, and which part of your comment policy it violated. This is your protection if someone ever claims that you removed their comment unfairly, and for government accounts, that can be a real risk. Third, have a crisis escalation plan before you need one. Who in your organization decides when a situation has escalated beyond social media manager's call? Who needs to approve a response when something's moving fast and the stakes are high? If you don't have all that mapped out in advance, you'll be figuring it out in real time under pressure, and that's just not a great situation. So talk to your leadership now, get alignment, and write it down. And finally, build that comment policy now. We've mentioned that a few times today. Our guest touched on it. A published comment policy is your first line of defense. It tells your community what's allowed, what will be removed, and why. And it takes that judgment call off of any individual staff member. And it just makes every moderation decision defensible. So if you don't have a comment policy, that's going to be your homework after this webinar. So before we get into our Q&A, just a quick plug for our June webinar, All Hands on Deck, how to get every city department active on social. Maybe they don't have to answer all the comments, but what would it look like if your Parks Department, Public Works team, and library were all active, consistent contributors to your city's social presence? In this webinar, we're going to show you how to make that a reality, from building internal buy-in to managing contributors without losing oversight. Plus, we'll give you guys a live demo of Civ Social, which is the new government-focused social tool built by Social News Desk. Whether you're a social news desk user or just exploring your options, this is an upgrade conversation worth happening. So we'll send a registration link out to everyone after today's webinar with the recording. And I hope everyone is walking away with a few strategies that you can put into place to make handling your negative comments easier and build trust with your constituents. So let's take a couple of questions. Our first question, will a recording of this webinar be available to watch in full later? Yes, absolutely. This will be available on, I believe, both socialnewsdesk.com and civol.com. The addresses are there on the screen. We'll also be sending out a link afterwards, and this will also be on our YouTube channel. All right, our next question. We've had situations where a comment blows up overnight, and by the time we see it in the morning, it's already been shared dozens of times. Any advice for catching things earlier? Any of our panelists want to weigh in here?
In the past, we've utilized some different listening services that will give you like heat warnings if if you want to set a threshold and you want to treat this like a crisis communications, if you're seeing that high high traffic on a certain post, I think that probably becomes very difficult to maintain that level of consistency, so if that is a problem though, I would utilize the alerts. That's, again, I think that once you start setting that expectation and people have the expectation that you're going to be active and responding after hours, I just think it opens up your agency to some pretty difficult choices in how you continue that service and meet that expectation.
Yeah, that's great advice. Taylor, Bridget, how about you guys?
Answer, but I didn't hear the question because my it froze when you were asking.
Oh no. So any advice for catching things earlier if a comment blows up overnight and it's already been shared dozens of times by morning?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Stephen on this. We work in the unknown. I mean, we work on the fly. We work with, we can put so much stuff in place, but we're not going to know who's the keyboard warrior at midnight and who's sharing it where. Just don't be afraid when you wake up, and don't be afraid to hit those, comments and see what's happening and get your right people in place. I'm with Stephen 100%. You have to turn yourself off at some point or you're going to burn out. And it's highly not recommended. I'm really strict with Taylor and my team. Like, take your time. You need your time. You need to fill your cup back up.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right. How do you handle it when elected officials or council members are jumping into the comments themselves and it's making things worse? I know it's usually just important to build that relationship with elected officials and their staff early. So when things start moving fast, you already have a channel for a quick, like, hey, we got this. Here's the plan conversation. You guys want to weigh in on this?
I can start out if nobody wants to take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mine's pretty easy. I tattle on them to my director of external affairs. And then, right, because that's part of escalating. It's just part of the escalation plan. Like if a board member is in the comments and they're misstating something for whatever reason, it is my job to alert people higher than me, not for me to go in and try to correct or I don't want to really touch that situation until I get guidance from my director. So I would tell Bridget and then Bridget, what would you do?
So we're just really flipping lucky. I'm going to say it. We are just internally, I can't say it enough. Melissa is just very lucky, and I'm knocking on wood right now. We have a great council and mayor. We have great leadership. We recently, as you know, we did our social media policy, and the city didn't have one. So all that to say, was it 2023, Taylor? 6 posts for the entire year? No, 22.
Yes, 22.
6 posts for the entire year. So just to catch everybody up to speed, we are one of the fastest growing cities for a reason. It's evident in what I'm saying. anyhow, when we did our social media policy, we also did a city council, boards and commissions guidelines, because we're not going to tell them what to do. We're going to give them some bumpers and say, hey, we want to help protect you because you're open for public information requests just the same as anybody else. So we don't want them to get caught with their pants around their ankles. We want to help them and set them up for success. And um, that was really a big one to present at work session. It wasn't us. If legal did it. In fact, they requested to do the presentation on that. We knew that there were going to be a lot of questions, but just remember, you're setting people up for success. You don't want them to get out there in the wild, wild west and have nothing, no guidelines. Well, nobody told me that this could happen. Well, if you set it up, yeah, you did. And you said, hey, I don't want you to be out there and make a bad decision.
Yeah. So it sounds like, again, document, policy, 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 get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
Go put that policy together today if you don't have one in place, so you can get ahead of that before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
All right. One more question here. How would you respond to someone repeatedly and erroneously blaming your agency for something a different agency is quote unquote responsible for? In this case, the complaint is bordering on venting or trolling, but leaning trolling and likely neither a valid complaint nor the other agency's fault. It never picks up any steam, but it is an annoying and unrelated negative comment on several otherwise positive posts. So I think based on our conversation today, I would probably say if it's venting or trolling, I would just let it be. I know it's probably very annoying, but other commenters are going to see that and be like, "Oh, it's that annoying guy again." You guys want to chime in on this too?
We at a different agency that I worked for before Melissa, we had one guy that, I mean, he gave him enough rope, and that's what he did every single time. He talked to everybody in caps and screamed at everybody. And it wasn't just us at the city. He hit the ISD, he hit the county, he hit everywhere. And you let him go. Unfortunately, it's there, it's ugly, but they're gonna lose steam eventually.
Yeah. Stephen, how about you guys? Have y'all had an issue with that, with someone blaming someone else or blaming you guys when it's really someone else's fault?
Yeah. So in 2022, California was in the midst of a historic drought. My particular agency, our water allocation was cut by 76%. And one of our neighboring cities, the city of Malibu, this gentleman kept taking pictures of people wasting water and be like, you're doing this, and why can't you stop this person? And so, right, that's misunderstanding. Obviously, heart's in the right place. Respond, say, hey, thanks for letting us know. Actually, that's not in our district. That is this district with their contact information. But thank you. Thank you for doing your part. But they kept doing it on all of these posts. Like I was posting all these things for like updating what our what the 1 day watering regulations were. And every single one, he would post like a picture. Finally, I screenshotted. It only took twice. I screenshotted my initial response and I posted it under it. It's like, and then other people started saying like, hey, and then once your community comes in, then you've done your job and you can just sit back and, like Taylor said, you get the popcorn and watch your citizens, watch your constituents really, be the community that they are. So that was one of the instances, as you said, that I just laughed because it just made me think of this guy. It's like, we don't even service that area, man. But
they don't even go here.
That's a really good point, Stephen. And, we started a Citizen Academy, and they are the best little ambassadors for us. So if you haven't done that portion, that's another, if you have the wherewithal to be able to do it. What people don't know, they don't know. And, after they go through a Citizen Academy, they have a lot of respect for what we do. And we have seen the our volunteers stack up as well. So we're not just building people that can help us speak the truth of government, but we're also seeing that they want to give back. And it's not just helping us, it's helping them. A lot of them, their spouse has passed away and they need something to do during the day, or they're just civic minded, or they just have a giving heart and this is their community spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe some of those negative comments, you can respond with like, hey, have you considered attending our Citizens Academy so you can learn all about this and become an expert right from your armchair? Yeah, that's a really great point. So yeah, turn those critics into advocates. So that's all the questions we have today. So we're going to end it there. If you would like more information about Social News Desk for social media management and social media archival, you can visit socialnewsdesk.com. And for more information about Civol, our new public sector brand, visit civol.com. That's CIVALL.com. And thank you all so much for your time and attention today. Thank you guys on our panel so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days, and it's always a pleasure to talk to y'all. So thank you again, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.